Bandit family is back at it like a crack addict. About to get the doggos right. If you're fucking with the content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, comment on the video, send it to your mammy. Be greatly appreciated. I've been reading all y'all comments and I just want to say I appreciate all y'all, man. All the love and support. So we gonna get these 31 days of content posted. And God been putting something on my heart to get out, to get off my chest and to put out there in the world. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all how I've been feeling, or maybe not necessarily how I've been feeling, but just to get this message out there, because you never know who may need to hear it. But the older I've gotten, the more I realize life is all about perspective. How you view the world, how you view different things that goes on in your life is very important. And like I said, the older I've gotten, the more that I realize that everything is about perspective, how you perceive things. And I'll give y'all the perfect example. All right, so this summer I started going back to anger management because I had just been going through some shit which was causing me to be angry and lash out. So I needed an outlet. So I thought to myself, hey, why not go back to anger management? So that's what I did. But I didn't complete anger management, and I'll tell you why after I tell you the story. But as I was going through anger management, as I was going through the weeks, I started to realize that maybe this anger management class that I was in was more so beginner level for dealing with anger, which is nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't really what I was looking for as far as different coping mechanisms to deal with my anger. But I did start to get something out of it, but I didn't really get coping mechanisms out of it. It was more so about perspective for me. So like I said, the more I went through the different sessions, the more so I realized that, hey, I'm not as bad off as I think I am when it comes to dealing with my anger. Because for y'all who don't know, I'm a veteran, and this anger management that I was in is nothing but veterans. We're all veterans. And I was probably the youngest one in there. I'm only 29. Everybody else is probably in their 40s or 50s. So if you've never been to any type of therapy or any type of counseling, group counseling, so you pretty much have to give them a rundown of how your week went, how things are going in your life, how have you been dealing with different triggers that has been going on in your life. And the more that I would go, the more that I would realize that, hey, my life isn't as bad as I think it is. Well, not even necessarily as bad. Not that I thought my life was bad, but when it comes to me dealing with anger, I have been doing a better job than I would give myself credit for, because listening to the other veterans and listening to them give their testimony or the shit that they've been dealing with, it kind of forced me to change my perspective, and it forced me to kind of give myself more credit for the shit that I've been doing. Because once I started to realize that, hey, maybe I'm not going to learn coping mechanisms that I would like to implement in my life, because I feel like majority of the coping mechanisms that we were learning in anger management this time, I was already doing and already applying a lot of the things that we went over in my life that we were learning in that class. So I kind of had to shift my perspective and look at it as a different way. Well, look at it in a different way. And then how I started to view it was, I'm only 29 and I've been going to therapy for 10 plus years. And then here you have some of these guys who are 40 and 50 and they're just starting to go to therapy. And that's not to downplay anybody at all. That's not what I'm trying to get here, because everybody has their own journey. Everybody goes through their own shit. So I'm not saying this to pass any type of judgment, but it's more so to give myself more credit to be like, hey Tevin, you've been going to therapy for all of these years. You pretty much are starting out early, so you got a head start on everybody. Because I feel as though as men, we look at therapy as kind of a bad thing. Because I feel like we don't really understand the shit that we go through on the everyday life, on a day-to-day basis. So we don't really see the importance of therapy, which I can understand that. Because at one point in time, I was the same way in my life. I didn't really see the importance of therapy. But therapy is very important, especially if you've gone through certain traumatic experiences in your life. If you've had a traumatic childhood and you haven't dealt with certain childhood traumas that you've gone through, whatever the case may be. If you haven't healed from past relationships, past friendships, whatever the case may be, therapy will help you unpack all of those different feelings and emotions. Because a lot of the time, the shit that we go through as kids, that shapes us to how we'll be as adults. Whether that's how you deal with relationships, that's what it is majority of the time. How you were raised as a kid, the shit that you went through as a kid, that'll be how you deal with different relationships. Whether that be arguments, how you deal with different problems that you may face in life. Even when it comes to your love languages in a sense, all that shit stems from your childhood. What's up, nigga? But your childhood plays a key role into how you deal with different things as an adult. And like I mentioned earlier, I said, even when it comes to love languages, for example, and if you don't know what love languages is, it's pretty much how do you receive love. And that stems from a lot of the time your childhood and whatever you lacked as a child, whatever you didn't receive as a child, as an adult, now you kind of want those things. But back to what I was saying when it comes to perspective. So I feel as though my purpose of going to anger management this time wasn't necessarily about, watch out. It wasn't necessarily about finding different coping mechanisms for my anger, but it was more so to give me perspective as into, hey Tevin, you actually are doing pretty well in life. You actually are doing pretty well when it comes to dealing with your anger. And then when it comes to you even wanting to go back to therapy, that's a plus, because you realize that you are having a problem dealing with your anger. You were having a problem lashing out in certain situations that triggered you. So you took it upon yourself to go back to therapy, which going back to therapy this time kind of helped me. It wasn't necessarily about learning coping mechanisms. It was just about changing my perspective about things, or looking at things from a different point of view. So that's what I got the most out of therapy this time. But when I first started going, I was kind of disappointed because I wasn't really learning the things that I thought I was going to be learning. Because like I said, I was going into it thinking, hey, I just need to learn how to better control my anger. But then as the weeks start to go on and you start to hear everybody's story about the different things that everybody in the class was going through on a day-to-day basis and how they were dealing with their anger, I just had to take a step back and be like, damn, I remember when I was once doing the same things that they were doing, but I no longer were doing those things because I had grown, because I was implementing the things that I'd already learned in my life from experience when it comes to dealing with my anger. So it just changed my perspective on a lot of things. So life is all about perspective, man. If you can change your perspective whenever you're going through bad situations in life, if you can look at it from a different point of view, instead of being like, why am I going through this? And then just tell yourself, instead of why am I going through this, ask yourself, what is this situation teaching me? And then once you figure out what this situation is trying to teach you, whenever you figure out what God is trying to teach you, or the universe, or whoever you believe in, then you just have to implement the action to better your situation so you don't continue to go through the same shit. Because I realized when I was younger, I would go through a lot of the same shit in my life, especially when it comes to dealing with women or dealing with relationships. You kind of feel yourself going through the same shit. And I had to ask myself, why would I keep going through the same shit? And it's because I wasn't changing certain things. I wasn't facing certain traumas, certain childhood traumas that I had. I wasn't healing in a sense. So if you're not healing, if you're not facing those demons that you have, you're gonna continue to go through the same shit in life. And that's what I had to learn. I didn't want to continue going through the shit that I was going through. So I had to sit back, figure out why I was going through the shit that I was going through. What was causing me to go through these things? And then I had to change it, which came with going to therapy, doing the inner work, healing, all sorts of shit. So that's what I learned most about going to anger management this time. It wasn't more so about coping mechanisms or how to deal with my anger, but it was more so about me changing my perspective. So that's what I learned the most. So hopefully somebody can get something out of that. If only one person could get something out of that, that's cool. I done my job. As long as you can affect one life, that's all that really matters. If you can impact one life, that's how I look at it. But go to therapy, especially niggas, because we be having a hard life. Not to say that females don't have hard lives, but niggas, we just be going through shit that a lot of people don't understand. And at the end of the day, we feel like a lot of motherfuckers don't be trying to hear the shit that we be going through, or they feel like that we don't be going through shit. When in all actuality, we go through a lot. We just mask that shit. Come on, nigga, figure it out. Wrong. Go to that. Go, 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 go. Back up. Back up. Back up. Come on. So go to therapy. I'm a huge advocate for therapy. Chew your food, nigga. Go. People feel like niggas, we don't have feelings. They feel like we don't be going through shit. But it's just like, man, why you think the suicide rate is mostly men? Because we go through a lot of shit. And people don't be trying to hear us when we try to talk to them because they feel like we don't go through shit. Go. Whole time, we be going through a world of hell and you wouldn't even know it. Me, I'm the type of nigga, I feel things extreme. How do I say this? I feel my emotions very deeply. Speak. Go. I'm somebody who's in tune with my emotions, and I feel things very strongly. I feel things, and that's why when niggas go through breakups, why you think niggas be killing themselves more so than the females kill themselves? Because the whole time, that really be the only person that you feel like you can confide in is your lady. And then once you go through a breakup, you really feel like you don't have nobody else to confide in. Some motherfuckers end up taking their lives. So, like I said, I'm the type of motherfucker, I feel my emotions very deeply, very strongly. I am very in tune with my emotions. And just even having this conversation, it just goes to show how far I've come. Because if you would have asked me would I had this conversation when I was a young nigga, I'd probably look at you like I was crazy. But you gotta get that shit out to keep from exploding. If you just keep your emotions in, you keep all that shit bottled up, that shit gonna turn to rage one day. And I'm saying this because I'm speaking from experience. I'm an Aries, and if you know anything about astrology and zodiac signs, we the first zodiac sign on the motherfucking chart, and we are fire. I'm a fire sign. So I can be extremely aggressive. I can be extremely passionate about shit. That's what all the characteristics of an Aries. Like I said, if you know anything about astrology, you'll know. But I would say more so now, I'm more so a more mature version of an Aries. But when I was younger, man, look, I go to 0 to 1,000 just like that. In which, with doing that, that shit has gotten me into a lot of trouble in the past. Gotten me put in jail and some more shit. When I get, as a young nigga, when I got mad, it's like motherfuckers got hurt. And I had to get out of that. Because like I said, that shit just end up with me being in motherfucking jail, and that shit ain't, you know, that ain't good. So go to therapy, man. I started going to therapy after my pops died. I feel like after my pops died, that shit just turned me up to a whole nother level. I was already an aggressive and extremely passionate person, and then when that shit happened, that shit put me on a whole nother level. I ain't gonna lie, that's when shit really started to go downhill. Then I was forced to go to therapy, honestly, because I was in the military at that time, so I ain't even had no choice. But I'm glad that everything happened how it happened, because if it didn't, I may still be fucked up like I was back then. So everything happened for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that shit. Everything happened for a motherfucking reason. And I don't even know how we got down this rabbit hole, but here we are. Your mental health is very important. I feel like everybody only thinks about their physical health and looking good, but you gotta work on yourself from the inside out. And for a lot of people, that's gonna start with going to therapy. That's how the shit started with me. You gotta heal. You gotta face those demons that you're going through. And if you don't face those demons, you're gonna continue to go through the same shit. You're gonna continue to repeat the same cycles, the same traumatic and karmic cycles that you've been going through. And you ain't gonna get nowhere in life. And that's what I had to learn. I'm just glad that I learned when I did. And that's what I mean when I say therapy taught anger management. Going to anger management this time taught me perspective, because I'm glad, because a lot of people that was in there are in their 40s and 50s and they still haven't caught on to this shit. And I'm just glad that I caught on to that shit as a young nigga. So give yourself credit. Try to change your perspective. Don't bottle shit up and go to therapy. Cause I feel like niggas, we feel like we ain't supposed to have emotions. Emotions isn't a characteristic of a female. That's a human trait. Everybody feels emotions. Everybody go through shit. Everybody has feelings. I don't care how tough you think you are. I feel like I'm one of the toughest motherfuckers on the planet. Real shit. But I got feelings. I got emotions. And I feel them shits deeply. I ain't gonna lie. So hopefully somebody takes something from this. But if you made it this far to the video, go and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, comment on the video, send it to your man. Be greatly appreciated. And just like that, we gone.